The parabola y equals x squared is translated 2 units in the positive x direction and 1 unit in the positive y direction. For part A, we want to write down the corresponding mapping notation for this transformation. So we have x comma y, and for this example it maps to x, and a translation of 2 units in the positive x direction for mapping notation is x plus 2. Then the other part of the coordinate is y, and a translation of 1 unit in the positive y direction is y plus 1 for mapping notation. For part B, we want to determine the equation of the image graph. So what we do is we take our mapping notation from part A and we generate 2 equations. The first one says that the transformed x coordinate is equal to x plus 2, and the second equation is the transformed y coordinate, y dash, is equal to y plus 1. Next, what we have to do is solve for the non-dash terms, so just the normal x and the normal y in this equation. So to do that, we're going to subtract 2 from both sides of this equation, and that will give us x is equal to x dash minus 2. And for the other equation, we're going to subtract 1 from both sides, and that will give us y is equal to y dash minus 1. The next thing we do is we substitute the values that we just found into the original equation, which is y equals x squared. So that means wherever we had y, we now write y dash minus 1, which comes from the equivalent equation back here. And that's going to be equal to wherever there was an x, we're going to put x dash minus 2, and that's all squared. So the substitution there came from this equation. And now what we need to do is express this as y equals, because that's the convention for how we write equations. So to do that, we're going to add 1 to both sides of the equation, get y by itself. And we find that y equals, and we'll drop the dashes off in our last step and call this new graph y1, the image graph, is equal to x minus 2 squared plus 1. So that's the equation where y equals x squared has been translated 2 units in the positive x direction and 1 unit in the positive y direction. For part C, the original graph is already shown on the set of axes above. And on the same set of axes, we want to sketch the image graph y1. And we want to clearly show where the coordinates -2, 4, 0, 0, and 1, 1 have been mapped. So the transformations that have occurred is a translation of 2 units in the positive x direction. So if we start at x is -2, we go 1 and 2 this way, and we get x is 0. And then we have a translation of 1 unit in the positive y direction. So that means that our new point here, where -2, 4 is mapped to, is going to be 0, 5. So that is the new y-intercept. For the point 0, 0, we translate 1 unit and 2 units in the positive x direction, and then 1 unit in the positive y direction. So the image coordinate is going to be 2, 1, and that's the new turning point of this graph. The point 1, 1 is then translated 1 and 2 units across, and then 1 unit up. So the image coordinate is here at the point 3, 2. The last thing we have to do is sketch our parabola through these points. So there is the shape of the transform graph, where it's been translated 2 units in the positive x direction and 1 unit in the positive y direction.